বৰঠাকুৰ IAS একাডেমি প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা।
Hello everyone, welcome to the Hindu analysis for 18th May 2021. Let us begin with the first article today. Job losses bode ill for economy. In this article, we have to consider two things. One is the percentage of rise in unemployment rate in India and the direct correlation that it has on lack of demand. Recently, the RBI came out with a bulletin stating that there is a significant decrease in demand in domestic consumption. So we can directly correlate this to the the rise of unemployment in India due to lockdown or coronavirus pandemic. So recently, the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy came out with a report stating that they have been consistently seeing a rise in unemployment rate, and this has directly linked to the shrinking in real incomes, which have directly led to the lack of demands. And these two things does not bode well for the Indian economy. One, there is a rise of unemployment. As a result of it, people cannot afford to buy things, so there is a decrease in or lack of demand for goods and services in India, domestic sector particularly. So both of these combined together is not a good sign for Indian economy, which is already shrinking rapidly and battling coronavirus pandemic. According to the report, they have consistently seen that unemployment rose to 8% in April from 6.5% in March. Since the end of April and the beginning of almost end of April, we have been seeing certain states in India imposing micro or mini lockdowns. At the end of the day, lockdowns, though there is no real proof that they help in controlling the spread of virus or transmission of virus, one thing that is sure is they prevent people from working or attending their jobs. And this can be directly understood from the fact that the labor participation rate was 40% in April of 2021 compared to the labor participation rate in April of last year. So it is a simple correlation. One, imposition of lockdowns is having a bad impact on economic recovery because one, people cannot go to work and do their jobs. As a result, they don't get paid, or even in certain cases the company is unable to run due to logistical issues or whatever that is going on due to coronavirus pandemic, and they are firing employees left, right and center. When people cannot earn salaries, they cannot afford goods. So it's a vicious cycle that India is in right now due to coronavirus pandemic and the imposition of certain micro or mini lockdowns. And it is overall, when you look at the picture pragmatically, we don't see a way out of this mess that we are in right now. Whatever the economic rescue plans that the central government brings in, there is going to be a little effect of these plans on Indian economy. One thing that you have to understand is domestic demand is key for the resurgence or recovery of an economy. Now, domestic consumption will help the economy because it is critical that we get money into the hands of the people, and that is consumers, and they significantly will reinvest that money or re-spend that money into the domestic market or domestic economy. That is the only way that we are going to come out of this economic slump or economic shrinkage that we are seeing here. For example, the size of salaried class shrank for the third consecutive month in April, with 3.4 million jobs lost. During 2019 and 2020, there were 85.9 million salaried jobs in India, but as of April 2021, there were just 7.3 million salaried jobs in India. That is a significant shrinkage and reduction in number of people employed and able to pay for their goods. So, one, we are seeing a rising unemployment rate in India that is having a direct impact on domestic demand. This was also highlighted by a recent RBI bulletin, which shared the same concern that we are seeing a significant shrinkage in domestic demand for goods and services. What is the way out of this? One, we have to come out of this shrinkage slump by ensuring that people get employed, people get paid. At the end of the day, it comes down to how the governments are managing the pandemic, how the governments are going to deal with the lack of cash flow in the domestic sector. It comes down to the policy that they are adopting. At this point of time, there is a lot of confusion as to what the central government or the state governments are doing to infuse cash flow into the domestic market. We have to wait and see how the governments are going to tackle this lack of domestic demand and rise of unemployment in India. Coming to the next article, few clotting events after Covishield jab. So India has been not only battling the COVID-19 pandemic, we have also been battling the idea of vaccine hesitancy since India was introduced to COVID-19 vaccines. Even before the idea of vaccine was introduced, the first opposition came or reluctancy came in the form of vaccine hesitancy. Before understanding what is these articles are talking about, understand two words. One is embolic and thrombolic or thrombosis. Embolic means something that travels through the bloodstream, lodges in blood vessels and blocks it. Nothing but blood clots or something to that similar effect. Thrombosis is the formation of a blood clot known as thrombus within a blood vessel. Now let's get back into the article. As I said earlier, India has been battling not only the coronavirus pandemic, in the later stages of vaccine development and rollout of vaccine, the first culprit in preventing people from getting vaccinated was vaccine hesitancy. One of the reasons for vaccine hesitancy was there is a widespread echo chambers of thought that when you get vaccinated, it will lead to blood clots and you will die of vaccination or you will die of blood clots. That is why whenever the vaccination rollout started, one of the primary goals set by the government of India was to monitor adverse events after immunization and collection of adverse event immunization data in India. After more than 3 or 4 months of continuous vaccination rollouts, India has a concrete set of data that shows that adverse events following the immunization in India showed there is minuscule but definitive risk of thromboembolic events after administration of AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, that is Covishield in India. Means we have enough data to suggest that yes, there are cases of blood clots, but they are in minuscule levels. Meaning, let us say 100 people got vaccinated. Out of 100, almost only 1 or 0.5% of people got blood clots. That is very, 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 very low. Mind you, this is an example. This is not to scale. So a statement by the Health Ministry on Monday said that reporting rates of events, particularly these adverse events following the AstraZeneca vaccine, is around 0.61 per million doses, much lower than the 4 cases/million reported by the United Kingdom's Regulatory, Medical and Health Regulatory Authority. Here we are comparing the percentage of adverse events in regards to 1 million doses administered in India, UK and Germany. Compared to UK and Germany, India has reported far more less adverse events per million doses administered compared to these two countries. Accordingly, the AEFI panel, which was given the job to track these adverse events and study the data and come out with a report, have clearly said that, and the committee clearly said that whatever the adverse events that were reported post observation of COVID-19 vaccine, particularly the Covishield vaccine in India, is minuscule, and it said that whatever the thromboembolic events or blood clots that we were seeing, there were chances that these can be treated with early detection. So, one, if you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, please do get vaccinated. If you have anybody in the family that is still reluctant to get vaccinated, even though they are eligible to it, it is upon you as an individual to ensure that that family member or the relative gets vaccinated as soon as possible. Don't wait for Covaxin. Don't wait for Sputnik 5. If your family member or you are eligible to get a jab of COVID-19 vaccine at this present time, it is up to you to ensure that you are vaccinated, your family members are vaccinated, and your relatives and your surrounding neighbors are vaccinated. Remember, that is the only way that we are going to come out of this pandemic successfully. Our only tool right now, forget about 6 feet distance, forget about masking up. People do not tend to follow these protocols. The only way to ensure the safety of your family, yourself, and your neighbors is to ensure that they are vaccinated. If they have any doubts regarding vaccination, there is ample enough data available for you to do the study and explain it to them what are the pitfalls of vaccinated and what are the advantages of vaccination. Coming back to the article, yes, there are blood clots recorded after vaccination of Covishield in India, but that percentage is in small numbers. In particular cases, if the person who was experiencing blood clots noticed certain differences in their body and they approached the medical healthcare experts, they were able to treat those thromboembolic events in the hospital. So, please ensure that everybody gets vaccinated in your family and in your surrounding area. Coming to the next article, WhatsApp new policies against IT law. So this saga with WhatsApp privacy update has been going on for the last 6 or 7 months, and few days back the lawyers for WhatsApp clearly indicated that if people don't like the update policy or the privacy policy that is being introduced by WhatsApp, they can simply choose to opt out of it or stop using the app at all. So, as a response to these statements by the WhatsApp company or the Facebook as such, which owns WhatsApp, the central government on Monday informed the Delhi High Court that the controversial new privacy policy of WhatsApp was against the Indian information technology laws and rules. This they submitted before the High Court bench, where several petitions are being entertained regarding the WhatsApp latest privacy policy. Recently, in European countries, they've announced that citizens of those countries have the option to either opt in for the new privacy policy or opt out of this privacy policy. But when it comes to India, they are not giving such options or uh, options to Indian citizens. This is where the duality or dichotomy of WhatsApp privacy policy come into play. And rightly, the central government is opposing this privacy policy, which gives critical data of Indian citizens to private companies. Now, as far as High Court is concerned, though they have not issued a notice to the central government or Facebook, which owns the app, uh, WhatsApp is claiming that the new policy does not violate the user's right to privacy under the Indian Constitution, which is a gray area at the best. But as far as the central government is concerned, it is very clear that whatever the policy that is being brought by WhatsApp does indeed violate the Indian constitutional concept or idea of right to privacy of its citizens. Coming to the next article, unwarranted arrest, the casual resort by the police to sedition clause continues to cause concern. This is a matter of fact where majority states in India are invoking sedition clause under IPC section 124A to silence dissent in their states. If you have been following the past few months or the past 2 or 3 years, particularly in the case of central government and certain state governments, police of the respective states were very much active in invoking the sedition clause against people who were raising voices against the establishment. See, whether the voices that were being raised or legitimate or illegitimate, it is irrelevant. India is a democratic country. There is this idea of free speech and freedom to opinion. It rests on the state to prove whether the person or the concern raised by the individual is either true or false, and they have to do it in a legal manner. And just because you are being criticized by certain parties or certain individuals against your inactions or your actions, it doesn't mean that they should be slapped with sedition charges. This goes against the spirit of freedom of speech. Particularly in this case, a sitting MP of Andhra Pradesh has been very critical of the ruling disposition in Andhra Pradesh. That is particularly in the case of AP Chief Minister who happens to belong to a particular religion. Mr. Raju, who is an MP of the same party, belongs to another religion, and for the past few months or so, he has been very vocal and critical of the state government policies on religious conversions and its handling of COVID-19 pandemic. They both have been exchanging barbs or statements against one another on national TV on various occasions. Out of nowhere, 2 or 3 days ago, the Andhra Pradesh government, through its CID branch, issued arrest warrants under sedition charges. Particularly, he is being prosecuted under Section 153A or Section 505, which necessitated his arrest, and he's being slapped with sedition charges. Though these sections which were slapped against him attract a term of 3 years or more prison terms under his arrest, there is little to no evidence that he has done or said anything to topple the government of Andhra Pradesh. Whatever the statements that he had been making are in the press and in the public domain, and every statement that he had made according to law experts is well within his right to freedom of speech. Mr. Raju, who has been arrested by the CID police of the state, clearly said that he was ill-treated and he was beaten by the CID police in the custody. They filed a plea in the Supreme Court stating that he had to be transferred from the custody of CID to some other state police, particularly in this case Telangana State Police, because he was in fear of his life. Though his bail petition has been postponed or likely to be taken up during this week, there is a clear-cut case of the state using sedition charges to counter dissent in the state. The person's liberty. He is a sitting MP. He is a representative of the people. If this is the case with a sitting MP, imagine what a normal citizen who is not in power or who doesn't have any connections will face in states in certain cases when the state is against you. So I found this article to be interesting because yes, certain states are using sedition charges in excess, and the police in those states are also active participants of this clear violation of individual rights. This is very much developing. We have to wait 2 or 3 days to understand the extent of what the Supreme Court or the High Court of the respective state is going to come out in restoring liberty of the individual or citizens as such. That's the only reason that I wanted to discuss this article today, nothing more. Coming to the next article, walk the talk on TRIPS waiver. So in yesterday's class we discussed about World Trade Organization and trade-related intellectual property rights waiver, that is temporary waiver that is being raised by South Africa, India and other third world countries, and a similar proposal raised by United States. Now, I also said that India is also having a similar situation, and India is maintaining a dual standard in terms of TRIPS waiver. Internationally, they are asking for a TRIPS waiver, but when it came to domestic policy, they are not willing to invoke the Patent Acts of 1970 or explore existing flexibilities under the Patents Act of 1970. In the case of WTO or International TRIPS Agreement, in the case of domestic agreements or IP waiver in India, one thing is at the core of this argument. One is private companies. Internationally, US was also, in the case of US, in the case of TRIPS agreement, when US, European countries were opposing the waiver for TRIPS agreement, they were being pressured highly by private companies which own these intellectual property rights. When you translate the same idea into Indian subcontinent, Indian government is under a lot of pressure from private companies, particularly pharmaceutical companies, which are not willing to part with their intellectual property rights. So the government is also doing a flip-flop kind of a thing when it comes to intellectual property rights behavior in India. As I said earlier, as we discussed earlier in the yesterday's class, our current production rate is around 1 crore vaccines on a monthly basis, or if you push it to the limits, it is anywhere around 1.5 crores to 2 crore vaccine a month. Yesterday, Bharat Biotech, which produces Covaxin, came up with agreement with 3 other manufacturers stating that we are going to increase our vaccine manufacturing capacity from 2 crores or 1.5 crore per month to 8 crore vaccines per month, which is nowhere near the requirements or monthly requirements for us to vaccinate almost at least 60% of the population by the end of this year. Most of the activists, most of the legal experts and health experts are saying that the only way to ensure the increase in the capacity of vaccine production in India is to waive the intellectual property rights of these vaccines. One, Bharat Biotech, and second, Covishield. When it comes to the waiver of IP rights of Covishield, Serum Institute of India doesn't own the rights of Covishield vaccine. It is owned by AstraZeneca Oxford conglomerate. Even if India wants to open up the IP of this particular vaccine, that is Covishield, India cannot do it so because Serum Institute of India doesn't own the rights of this vaccine. While coming to the other vaccine, that is Covaxin, which was developed by Bharat Biotech, which is an Indian company and functions under Indian law, the government has the ability to waive the IP rights to Covaxin. But again, it is under compulsion from the pharmaceutical industry, because this will kind of open a Pandora's box, which will prevent the argument from at least from the side of the pharmaceutical industry and the government seems to be that if the waiver is given now, it means that whatever the future development of whatever the future R&D that will happen in pharmaceutical industry will again hang in the balance, which is not incentivized and again negate the concept of development of Indianized or domestic research and development market. So there is a lot of compulsions that are going around here, particularly in the case of what India has been asking at the World Trade Organization, where they are trying to take away the impediments or legal impediments against the TRIPS waiver so that the production vaccine all around the world can double or triple in a short period of time. And when the same discussion is translated to India's whole, Indian government's stand seems to be the exact opposite of what they are saying in the World Trade Organization. Particularly in the case of Covaxin, that is the main issue that is hindering in the transfer of IP from one company, that is Bharat Biotech, to other companies, so that the production percentage or the number of percentage of production in India can increase and we can vaccinate our population more effectively. One thing that we can conclude before moving on to the next article is, if the Indian government is real or serious about vaccinating its population and ensuring a free supply of vaccine to all the citizens of the world, because even the central government or the health ministry submitted a affidavit in the High Court yesterday or day before yesterday stating that globe is an unit and everybody must be treated against COVID-19 pandemic with a vaccine. As an offer, they were trying to justify their vaccine mandate program. But at the end of the day, it is absolutely true. Everybody should be vaccinated against COVID-19 vaccine, and their economy should not dictate whether they'll get the vaccine or not. As I said earlier, if the Indian government is very serious about vaccinating the population of India and the population of the world, one step that they can take is they should offer Covaxin technology to either domestic partners or domestic pharmaceutical companies or foreign corporations in agreement with Bharat Biotech. That is the only way to come out of this stalemate that India is having domestically and in the world stage. Coming to the next article, DRDO's drug launched for emergency use. The drug that we are talking about is a therapeutic drug called 2-deoxy D-glucose, which was developed by DRDO along with Dr. Reddy's lab in Hyderabad. Remember, this is a therapeutic drug which acts as an anti-COVID-19 therapeutic drug. So the idea behind this drug or this development of this drug is to counter COVID-19 in patients. This anti-COVID-19 therapeutic drug, that is 2-deoxy-D-glucose, has been developed by Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, which is an DRDO lab, and the drug is a good example of DRDO and private participation. One area where India has been falling behind is the usage of therapeutics such as 2DG in treating COVID-19. Whenever we were discussing our agreements with United States for help to fight against the second wave, we never discussed about the use of therapeutics. One of the most effective ways to treat COVID in patients is the use of various therapeutics. If you remember, in the case of Mr. Trump, when he was president and he was contracted with coronavirus, there was no availability of vaccine during that time. One of the news articles of the primary reporting that took place during that period was, it said that he was treated with a cocktail of drugs. Those cocktail or mixture of drugs is nothing but use of therapeutics to treat COVID-19 virus. India has to, or at least at this stage, should invest a lot of capital into exploring various other therapeutics other than what is available right now, because implementation or usage of mix of therapeutics will ensure rapid recovery of COVID-19 in patients or from COVID-19. Since the beginning of second wave of coronavirus pandemic, both ICMR has been, and in tandem with the health ministry, have been consistently saying that use of plasma therapy as a treatment for COVID-19 is not an effective method of treating COVID-19 in positive patients. Along with it, they have been also saying that the mixture or indiscriminate use of plasma therapy and use of remdesivir will likely lead to a new mutation of COVID-19, which will or may not be able to be treated with whatever the vaccines or treatments that we have available right now. Despite multiple memos or statements or suggestions or whatever you call it from the ICMR, doctors all around India have been recommending use of remdesivir and use of plasma therapy. Now, the National Task Force, which is interested with dealing with COVID-19 pandemic in India, clearly came out and said that they are dropping plasma therapy as a treatment methodology for COVID-19 in India. They have also clearly stated that a Lancet study that was published recently, they did a double-blinded trial involving 5,000 patients who got treatment in the UK, and this study clearly said that they didn't find any benefit in reducing mortality or on improving patient outcomes when the usage of plasma was involved. The ICMR guidelines still do recommend the use of hydroxychloroquine for mild diseases, but under low certainty of evidence. So once again, they are clearly stating that plasma therapy for COVID-19 as a treatment doesn't work, and they are asking or requesting or urging doctors to stop suggesting or writing plasma as a therapy. Coming to the next article, China steps up vaccinations to 14 million in a day. Now, the Chinese Health Authority on Monday said that they had administered more than 400 million doses of vaccine as of Sunday as a renewed push to guard against COVID-19 resurgence in several local clusters. Their vaccination on a daily basis stands at a record 14 million doses on a single day. Since the availability of vaccines in China, they have been on a vaccination campaign to increase their daily doses administered from 5 million to 10 million. Early on, they have realized that one of the only ways to come out of this COVID-19 pandemic is to vaccinate the population, and they have been consistently ramping up their production, and the availability of vaccines in China is also far higher than what it is in India. They have been actively exploiting that. Not only that, since India's Vaccine Maitri program took a step back, the Chinese have stepped in a major way, and they are leveraging their vaccines to diplomacy and certain quid pro quo cases in nations that are challenged vaccine-wise. That is the reason that I brought it up, to show that they have been vaccinating almost 10 to 14 million people a day, where we are still struggling. But we are on the way or on the path to vaccinate at least 10 crore people in the next coming few weeks or months. Coming to the next article, Iran to develop Farzad B gas field domestically dumps India. So to give a little bit of history, the Farzad B gas field was discovered by ONGC Videsh Limited in the year 2000, and both Iran and ONGC agreed that they are going to explore the gas field discovered by ONGC Videsh Limited together on a cooperation basis. But according to Iran's news agency, a deal was signed on Monday which was presided over by Iran's Minister of Petroleum towards a domestic gas producer, that is Petropars. Now, there has been no comment from the Ministry of External Affairs regarding this recent development. This agreement between the government of Iran and a domestic petroleum company or the domestic gas producer is a little bit of a blow to the relations between India and Iran. One thing you have to remember, relations between India and Iran have been on a downslide since the reimposition of sanctions under Trump government. Though there were long-standing issues and long-standing cooperations regarding the gas field, this particular decision or move by Iran can be seen directly as a reaction to US sanctions on India-Iran energy cooperation. Last year also, Iran has been very vocal about its strain in relationship with India as a result of US sanctions on Iran economy. But as I said earlier, there hasn't been no statement from the Ministry of External Affairs as of yet. But whatever it is, I'm pretty sure that the back channel negotiations or back channel diplomatic negotiations are ongoing, and we have to wait and see how India will react to this new move by Iran. Thank you. Stay safe.
বৰঠাকুৰ IS একাডেমি প্ৰস্তুতি আৰু অধ্যয়নৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য ঠিকনা।
বৰঠাকুৰ IS একাডেমি।